When I talk about stress mastery in my coaching practice and in my talks and how I support in the ways I do, it's about not reducing stress, not managing stress. My platform says that if you're living a full life, engaging in those things that are important to you, you're going to have stress.
Yeah.
So let's get some strategies to successfully meet that stress when it hits you and not allow it to wipe you out.
Let's talk tails.
Do you ever feel stressed out? Well, if you're human, I am sure you do at least once in a while. Today, I have the founder of Directions for Wellness, an international health and lifestyle coaching practice that helps people rewire their stress patterns to grow from their stress. After witnessing the mind, body, spirit healing journey of her hospital patients, my guest saw the connection between stress and physical healing in her personal life. She teaches shamanism to guide others in self-healing, is the creator of stress mastery programs for individuals and groups, applying ancient shamanic wisdom at the heart of her deeply transformational work. Unique mind, body, spirit techniques and tools for resilience are embedded into her programs for a holistic approach to rewiring mindset and lifestyle, empowering self-healing to create a more stress-resilient approach for health and happiness. It's Sara Regester. How are you doing today?
Hey Taylor, I'm glad to be here with you.
I am so happy to have you here. I've had the pleasure of recording some of your amazing talks that you've done. So tell me the tale that had you discover, which I know we have a little bit in the book, but had you discover that link of stress and how it comes physically, how it shows physically in us?
Yes, and my journey with stress makes me the expert, regardless of any training or professional skills. It's like being there in the trenches and wiping out myself over and over again. Mm-hmm. And so I, for many years was a busy healthcare practitioner as a clinical nurse in a big, busy hospital. And I numerous times would wipe out my health from my stress patterns. I wanted to be successful. I always said yes. I never said no. If they needed extra help, extra shifts, I was there. They gave me the most challenging patients because I said, yes, I can do it. And, the consequence of operating like that, of always pushing myself beyond, what was reasonable and really worried externally about, wanting to look good and be accepted and all the internal game with that. I numerous times wiped out my health significantly. And then because, I knew a little bit about health, I'd kind of back off and take care of my health and get back on track. And then I would get back in the pattern again and attract a whole new problem. Yeah. And I probably did this, 3 or 4 times before I finally had 2 epiphanies that came kind of simultaneously. And one was I thought, it's pretty amazing that I've been able to heal myself from these really, adverse health problems. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even know I could do that. I mean, I thought once you get a diagnosis, that's your identity.
Right.
And I didn't question, but something in me was curious enough to explore my life, to do my life differently, to go within, to take more responsibility for my actual symptoms and the changes I needed to make. Mm-hmm. And so I really found a way for self-healing. Mm-hmm. And so part of that was recognizing, gosh, if I could find a way to heal myself, how could I help other people heal themselves? Mm-hmm. Again, not me healing them, but them healing themselves.
Yeah.
Is the key.
Yes, teach the fisherman how to fish, right?
Exactly. And so what I really learned was what I saw in my patients was the same. I saw that mind, body, spirit connection to how our physical health and our life experiences are the major teachers that we evolve and grow from. Mm-hmm. And so what I recognized I was a cardiac nurse at that time. And so, I really saw in my patients their brokenhearted life experiences and having physically broken hearts coming for heart surgery versus the stories they shared with me in those quiet moments of, taking care of them. I really did see the profound impact of that mind, body, spirit, and how underneath our physical life experience is this feisty, strong, spiritual being that we might not even recognize in ourselves. But there's something about that inner will that some people have to naturally meet adversity no matter what's going on, and then go back into their life and moving forward. And yet another person could have, despite the best care, I was also curious about the ones that didn't survive or, didn't have good outcomes. And I really kind of observed that human nature. And that's where I really started to understand the impact of actually having a mindset and tools and skills for resilience to really grow at that edge of adversity. And so that's really the platform when I talk about stress mastery in my coaching practice and in my talks and how I support in the ways I do. It's about not reducing stress, not managing stress. My platform says that if you're living a full life, engaging in those things that are important to you, you're going to have stress. So let's get some strategies to successfully meet that stress when it hits you and not allow it to wipe you out. And so that's a little different message because like you, for example, have 2 small children, and I'm sure there's days.
Oh, literally this morning. I had one of those, and I just think, I took a deep breath and it was just sort of like, I'm going to use this. I can do this, and I feel like I know you talk about it. It's just like using it almost as like a fuel of motivation to like kind of push through. Yeah.
And it's even more than push through. Yes. And if we go with the principle of managing your stress or reducing stress, which is like the textbook approach, it means you'd have to get rid of your children to reduce your stress. It's like, that's not happening. No. We could change our job if we have a lot of stress on the job, but have we rewired those patterns that got us there in the first place? Are we going to rinse and repeat in a new work environment? And so it's important that we equip ourselves with strategies to be able to meet those edges or those moments or that cycle, whatever it is, that are challenging, and to be able to support your children without losing your mind.
Yes.
Is a practice right there, for sure.
Breathing. Just keep breathing. So a lot of people that I have on here, I say, if you were to write a book, would be the title of the tale, but you did write a book. And so we have your book here with us right now. Tell me the tale that encouraged you, though, to say, I need to put basically like your life story, it feels like, in this book.
It's way my story.
Yeah, like it's your whole life.
Like anyone can see my story.
Yeah, I had known this person, this wonderful woman, for many years prior to listening to your book. And the other thing I just want to say thank you for is thank you for being the one to do the Audible. In my stage of life with little kiddos and my life, I don't necessarily have time to read. I have 4 books on, between my desk and my nightstand that I'm working a page here and there when I just want that desire to do the action of reading. But the ability to be able to listen to it and then hear it from your own voice. It's so much easier to paint pictures and just to feel more authentic and connected whenever it is the author narrating. So thank you for that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And let me tell you, the book was quite a journey. That something inside of me always knew that someday I wanted to write a book, but I couldn't quite pin down exactly what it would be about. So then when I'm in my coaching practice and I'm helping people master their stress, it became obvious I'm going to write a book about stress. And so I wrote this draft, and I was all excited. I went to like a couple of writing retreats, and I got some coaching on writing, and I was so excited about it. And when I finished it, oh my gosh, it was like disappointing. And I was like in disillusionment, like, okay, I wrote the book and it was boring, really boring. And I thought, wow, this is like a textbook or a reference guide about stress.
Right.
Like, what can I do next? And so that started the journey of, okay, I have to put myself into this book. And I started sharing my own stories. And as I wrote the book, more things, more epiphanies, more awareness, it just kept bubbling to the surface. The book wrote me, I think. And so it really was a 6-year process. It wasn't overnight. It wasn't a short and snappy. And I had lots of support to make sure I created a really impactful piece of work in terms of the literature writing process.
You did a fabulous job because it's such a beautiful weave of storytelling, but then practical tools and actions, you know, because I'm a quick start. I want to go into action. I want to know what can I do. And it was like every chapter point, you're like, okay, now here's like what we can do about this now. Yeah. Here's a step now. Here's an action point. And so, yeah.
And I knew I needed to make it audible because
thank you.
I'm an audible reader. And I know my busy bee clients, you know, they're success-driven individuals that, you know, live fully. You know, my clients are audible readers. And so I knew it had to go to audible. And then it was kind of funny because it would have been so easy to hire a narrator. But the edge again, where we grow at our edge, outside of our comfort zone, I'm literally sitting inside my closet, upstairs in my bedroom, as the most soundproof room in my house to do the recordings.
I agree.
In my voice. And I thought it was more authentic to be in my voice. It felt right. Even though it was very edgy, but it was fun too.
I think it sounds great. Whoever edited it together did a great job. You know, I never heard the rustling of clothes amongst the audio in your closet. No, truth be told, I tell people the same thing. If they need to do voiceover, find a closet. It's the most dense sound. You know, you have clothes around you. You have the most soundproofing. It's the smallest room. No porcelain, you know, like it is in a bathroom. So that's great. And, you know, I don't want to spill all the beans because everyone needs to just get this book. But one thing I would love for you to tell the tale on is, you know, you grew up as a Catholic, but we shared in your bio that you teach shamanism. Tell me the tale that made that transition.
Yeah, well, it was purely accidental and synchronicity in action. I was a very happy Catholic, raised Catholic, educated Catholic, involved in my church. And I always had a sense in my early, like, teen years that I would serve some way, you know, as a nun, or I didn't know what it was, but I kind of had this little tap calling, and kind of like writing the book. I kind of knew intuitively something was there. And I was actually networking a health business that I had when I very first started coaching. And I went to this women's networking event on a rainy night. I almost didn't go, and I showed up and I heard this presentation about these workshops. And I was like, I have to go to that. I have to go sign up tonight. And it was before internet, mail my check tomorrow. And that's really what opened the doors. I started this series of workshops that I participated in. And what I learned there was to see the mind-body-spirit connection that I was witnessing in my patients dealing with deep confrontation, sometimes dying, and how I could see that, oh, here's these spiritual teachings that explain how we evolve and grow in our life, and how as human beings we have these kind of physical experiences that are part of what we're here to learn from. And that really opened the door, and that was over 20 years ago. And so I've been studying this very ancient lineage of shamanism, and I just want to explain to your listeners, you know, that in this era, there's not a lot of understanding about who a shaman is and what shamanism is. So I just would like to clarify that in the context of what I teach, it's really personal growth and development and self-healing. It's not about going out in the desert with some Peruvian shaman trying to
ayahuasca or something.
This context is more not just plant world. It's the human world, plant world, animal world, the spirit world, you know, all the as above, the so below. It's about really connecting with nature, connecting with creation, and how in our busy lives with so much going on, we typically can easily disconnect from life, be distracted, be depressed, be stressed out. And so really what I offer people as I teach in this program is to really find your own way to connect to the greater, to support your own growth and evolution, not by yourself, but as part of, you know, humanity, using nature to heal. And so there's ceremonies, there's teachings. And so that really opened the door for me to have a platform where I can still help people master their stress, find those tools and strategies that will help them stay centered, to be able to meet that edge that when you're outside your comfort zone. And so the work I do in my international teaching as well as in my coaching practice, it blends together. And it even blends for me what I know about Western medicine, that I can bring it all together and kind of make that tapestry where it all makes sense, because we need all of it. We don't need just one of it.
Right. We do need a nice blend. And that reminds me, a few years ago, I helped Dr. Valerie Kendong in a documentary series called The Forgotten Healthcare, where we discussed mental health and mental health care. And we said that there is a synergy between like Eastern and Western medicine and philosophies, that if you're not, spiritually whole, sometimes that could be just that disconnect that you need for healing of the mind. But other times it is, you need some pharmaceuticals. And it's just like not every person is, one size fits all when it comes to those types of medical conditions. Everyone still agreed, like you got to still, whether it is through religion, a God, or, the nature. And, I loved that personally. I did not grow up religious whatsoever. And so for me, like when I listened to the book, I kind of felt like almost validated that I was able to say, because I always said like, oh, it must be, the universe didn't want this. The universe didn't want that. Or the universe wanted this. I always say those types of things. So I do feel there's energies. And so I just felt like really validated also. Just like, oh, wait, it's okay to, I never thought about shamanism, I guess, and things of that sort. And so
really just means ancient wisdom from the early people that weren't distracted like we are, and they spent the time figuring things out.
Yeah.
Wisdom that just comes down through the ages in an oral tradition about how nature works, how the magic in the universe works. And it's quite amazing what magical beings we are when we recognize how we can harness our own power to focus on what we want and how we can manifest and create things in our life. And I just wanted to share a little bit when you were talking about the other person that you were working with. We need that Western medicine model to get the diagnosis. Sometimes we need the surgery or the medication. And that's really the bridge to the greater healing. The beyond the Western model that kind of sets the framework, that it's also all the choices we make, taking responsibility for our life, our lifestyle, about how we're thinking, how we're engaging with new patterns in our life, how to be more consciously aware and mindful, and practices that you can actually kind of center yourself, for example. And so that's one of the areas where I do bring my shamanic healing training, is I understand the patterns that someone is caught in that is opening the door to these physical problems. So it kind of gives me the way to tune into someone in terms of what needs to change to evolve out of that health problem.
Right.
If there's something that we're opening the door as a life lesson, we don't want to be having knee pain or thyroid problems. But for me, it kind of says, what's the mind, body, spirit of it? Oh, that's what this means for this person. Okay, well, let's kind of support that with the coaching sessions, to change the patterns, to unwrap that and, create some movement in a new direction with a new way.
Yeah, that's so interesting you say that too. Just remind me, I'm like right on that cusp of like hyperthyroidism. So when I get blood work done, my doctor would just be like, oh, so were you really stressed this week? I was like, yeah, I'm human. When was I not? But at the same time, it's like, I gotta really, you mentioned thyroid. I'm like, yeah, no, I gotta maybe think about that a little more. And how do I control my stress? Because it's just causing issues. So.
And it's, if we can have an awareness about what that means for us, it gives us something to focus on, to actually take action, shift your attitude or your approach, to not keep pushing the stress button with that pattern, but shift that pattern into a different approach, so you can kind of mitigate that stress button.
Yeah. So obviously we should all hire you and attend your courses and programs, but could you give the audience just like one tip, either one thing to help de-stress, or one thing to do prior to a meeting or prior to a stressful situation, or, when you're going to be in a stress, that just ease it down?
Yes, I can. And this is really foundational, and it's a really simple thing. I'm going to give it like a 2-step.
Okay.
So the first step is really important, at whether you're at the conference table, driving to the meeting, or you just had a blow up in the kitchen. It's really about taking a moment to just pause and take some slow, deep breaths down into your lower belly. That there's a place that's your center of gravity that's about 2 to 3 finger breaths below the navel and inside. And when we take slow, deep breaths into our center, it brings your energy in, and it helps calm the stress hormones to bring in the stress resilience parasympathetic system. So there's science there. So those slow, deep breaths kind of slow down the rev, and it helps you drop in, and then you can actually be more solution oriented. So the second step is once you've taken a few slow, deep breaths down into your one point, into your center, then you can ask yourself, okay, what am I feeling right now? Why am I triggered? What do I need to do for myself? And so it gets you out of reactivity and helps you flip the switch to be more responsive and tuned in internally to what you need for yourself. And so I would call that, and it's in the book, pause, notice, and choose. The pause is taking the breaths. Notice, name what's there. I'm anxious. I'm triggered. I'm insecure. I'm overwhelmed. It's amazing what comes from down here, this truth, not from up here. That's the inner dialogue. We want to listen from here. And then, gives you now pause, notice, choose. Okay, what do I need to do for myself? I need a glass of water. I need to get up from my desk and walk around the parking lot. Or I need to text my partner. Get a little hug emoji. That we can take action that it will empower us versus Netflix, phone scrolling, Netflix watching, emotional eating. That's when we're not pausing, noticing, and choosing. We're just going right into that reactive, numbing out, distracting, trying to escape our pain. It doesn't seem realistic, but you actually want to be in your pain, naming the experience as the truth for yourself, and then supporting yourself from internal, not looking outside yourself, but internally. What is it that I really need for myself right now? Oh, maybe I need to take some more deep breaths. Maybe I need to go hug a tree or, something, take a day off. I don't know. That's in the moment. It's about being present, really. Being present, not in the future where you're creating scenarios, not in the past where we're ruminating about things we can't control. And so that's like one strategy is breathing. And it's built in. We all have it.
We all have the capabilities. And the thing is, I think we do it so involuntarily that we forget the power of it, perhaps. We, are literally breathing all day long. It's how we stay alive. But then to actually use it as a tool is something that should be, I think, taught more in like elementary school and middle school.
Well, if I was a teacher, I'd be having the kids do it. I'd have my students do it. Yeah, and there's another little element to this that could be part of the pause, notice, choose, check-in is really what do I have control over and what's not in my control. That's like an important kind of thing to reflect on because there's a lot we get triggered that is beyond our control, and then we'll just lose energy and be reactive. Versus what step can I take that actually is within my control?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't stress if you have no control over it. It's just a waste of your energy. Yeah, and then use your breath. I know I've been teaching my son. I even taught some of his baseball players like box breathing. They were freaking out about, something. I think one of them thought they injured themselves really hard, and we wanted them just to calm down so we could see like, okay, themselves. So, it's just like, oh, let's do some breathing together. I'm like, okay. And I just try to teach them box breathing. And then next thing you know, she popped back up running around like nothing happened.
Well, and the box breathing is effective because it's, again, slowing down the breath. Ideally, breathing down into that one point place in the lower belly, not up high.
Yeah, I noticed that when you pull the down, it's like it helps pull it on the down note, too.
Yeah. And then counting. So if you're counting and breathing, there's no inner dialogue because there's no room for it. So if you have your mind just running amok, the box breath is a really good one to kind of calm down the inner dialogue and center yourself. It's like a reboot.
Yeah.
We can just go reboot.
Yeah, I had to just get like a little mole removed and just during the surgery, I'm just feeling my skin getting picked and I'm like, oh, this is weird. And I just started doing the box breathing. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm going to stop talking to you all because I'm too much in my head. Like I need to just get out. So yeah, breathing is so powerful. And I know you have so many more tips in there, but You're going to have to get the book to find out.
Yes, exactly.
And so tell me the tale of choosing your brand and your brand colors. I'm always curious, imagery, like a butterfly.
Yeah.
What was it about a butterfly that intrigued you and you wanted to have?
Yeah. Well, in the first statement, just so you know, I was a coach for 2 years and I learned I could be the best coach on the planet. And if I didn't have my niche target ideal clients, if I didn't have a way to put myself out there that was alluring and consistent, I was just vanilla. I couldn't stand out. But I took time in business to even understand what my brand would be. And it evolved. And so the butterfly is really important as a symbol for me because if you've been to the Butterfly Museum with your kids, you've seen there's this one big wall of the little chrysalis breaking out of the cocoon. And so the classic, of course, is that the butterfly, as it's working its way to free itself from the constraints of the cocoon, is actually what strengthens the wings so it can fly. And if we're going to be helpful, I'll help that butterfly get out of that cocoon. The wings will not be strong. The butterfly will not fly and it will die. So it's a very powerful symbol that we actually grow from tension. Yeah. We grow from the edge of our stress. And it'll only wipe us out if we think it's going to harm us and say, what am I going to do? Versus if I say, how do I want to do this? Solution oriented. And so the butterfly is a really strong symbol of we want to help people to strengthen their own wings, to give them tools, to give them new perspectives, a new rewire of the habits so that their wings are strong and they can fly with autonomy, with empowerment, and not dependent on the coach to keep them going forward. I want to work with people for a 3-month program, and then off you go, fly.
Right, you're like that app that's meant to be deleted, right? That's really great too that you do have that desire because, in business, a lot of times you would think you wouldn't want to get rid of me, but no, you do. You want us to fly and, be able to be strong and resilient on your own. And yeah, it's such beautiful imagery. And then any particular choices on the colors?
Well, that's kind of a funny story because when I was first designing my first website and my brand, the graphic artist web designer said, well, what colors do you want? And I had this shirt on and go, well, I like these colors. And it was like teal, turquoise, and like fuchsia.
Yeah.
And so those ended up being my brand colors because it's like, can you make these colors work?
Yeah, nice. Hey, you should always choose brand colors that you like to wear though because, you should be always wearing your brand.
Well, and it's funny because I wore this dress today with awareness that I wasn't really wearing my brand colors. Yeah. And then I thought, I just want to be this bright little spot on the screen.
It's gorgeous, though. It works so well. I love it. I think it matches. You got the plant back there with it, too. Yeah, no, you look great. And, butterflies are attracted to flowers.
Yes,
so
they are.
Flowers and paisleys. No, it looks really great. Yeah. And it still works. It's still, in the same hue family here.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
And
I could say there's a little story in the book about the butterfly that, if anyone listens to it, you'll hear how the butterfly showed up when I had my calling.
Yes.
That, was planting the seed for where I am today.
Lovely, lovely. And, are there any books that inspired you or are there any?
Oh, yeah.
What would be maybe a top 2 favorite or at least?
Top 2. So the one was Dr. Kelly McGonigal's book on stress and how the upside of stress and how to be good at it. I read that book. And it was dog-eared, highlighted. It's my whole stress mastery program came out of her book to the point when I wrote this book, I do talk about her studies. I shared her science that she shared about the new science of stress and how mindset is such a big part of what people need to think about, how to respond to stress is mindset more than the fight or flight every time. So I really want to acknowledge how she really opened the door to show me another way. And that was the foundation of all my programs was from what she taught me and how she had compiled all the science and the research together in her book. And then another one that I really like is The Atomic Habit.
Yes.
Because that's got some really good tips in there for changing patterns, changing habits. And of course, he was also a memoir, tried it on himself first kind of guy. And I think that's a good one too. So those 2 I think are helpful.
Yeah. No, I do. I always love just like a personal, a personal touch onto it. They experienced it. So like James Clear, it's like, I did this, it worked for me. You share your whole journey and story in here, and just, everything from, the lows of all your health issues, but then how you're able to work through that. Like, it's always so nice to really have those personal experiences. I know one book I had recently gone through was Extreme Ownership from Jocko Willings. Like, weaving stories about their time in Iraq, but just really how you guys just take ownership on what you do have control on.
Yeah.
And, you don't blame others. You don't do, you just take ownership on anything you actually can have control on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my blog I sent out just last week, was about your superpowers, taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Because I've been having a few of these talks. I'm like, we really got to lean into that. It's really up to you, each of us, to take responsibility.
Yeah.
Another book that's quite hot right now that I listened to was Mel Robbins in the Let Them.
Okay, yeah, that's on my list. I haven't done that one.
It's a good one, and it's very personal story, memoir style. But it was interesting. All her chapters, I'm like, oh yeah, I wrote that. Yeah, that's in my book too. Okay. So it was really good because it was validated. Okay, so the things I included are like, I just gave it a different
Okay, well, we
spin.
need you to be mentioned the way that everyone's mentioning that book these days.
It.
So that's the thing.
That's why I decided I would go ahead and just see what's in here.
Yeah.
And not from a comparison, but like from a validation.
Yeah.
Of like, oh yeah, okay. I that was my experience. She shared hers, and it's, kind of a similar parallel of, meeting life as it comes at you.
Yes. And just thinking about the mindset. And mindset's so big.
Yeah.
I tell my kids that all the time. Yeah, it's just how you want to look at it. And your mindset, and, visualizing, for the sports game of, how do you want it to turn out? Now, when it doesn't turn out the way they want to, it's sometimes I'm going to teach them that, well, it's a team sport. And so if other people don't do their job, that's what happens in life. But
it's also about recognizing sometimes there's consequences for the choices we make. But in terms of this book, I said there's a theme about attention equals power. So where we place our attention, whether it's something positive or negative, we're going to get more of that. And so, mindset and mindfulness is a big part of resilience. How we train our mind and support our body with tools and practices to keep us from revving up with those stress hormones.
What's your take on like the silent retreats then? Is that something that would help someone get more centered with themselves? Do you do those? Do you like them? What are your thoughts?
I've never done one.
I feel like they're getting popular these days.
Yeah,
so.
I've never done one. And this was kind of funny. It came up recently where someone was talking about the silent retreat. Then they also were sharing, I think I should just go live off-grid. Imagine not having electricity, no cell phone, no TV, no computer. And so people are like exploring that because they're looking for more quiet.
Yeah.
And less incoming distraction and electronic, that's always
We're just inundated with information. Like, I feel I try to keep my notifications down, but I know after this recording, I'm going to look at my phone and it's just going to be inundated with whatever happened in the world,
Yeah. Well, here's what I recognize is that it'd be a big step for many of us to go off grid with, urban living and kids in school and reality of jobs. But, you can go on retreat. You can go off grid. It's about having those periods where you go camping or where you intentionally go somewhere that's remote without any cellular activity. Yeah. Or in terms of the home, when is the TV off and the devices down and you're playing board games?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so it's about the choice of how much are we habitually listening to. Do we just come home and flick on the TV? Or are we just automatically looking for that Netflix movie every night? Yeah. So there's something about that often I recognize in people. There's two pieces that they're not recognizing outwardly. One is their values of what's really important, what matters in terms of family, communication, connection, hobbies, because hobbies are a really great door into mindfulness, calming the mind, going into that kind of zone of focus with no distractions when you're doing your hobby, whatever, if it's puzzles or art things or gardening. But there's also a part here of how people can really exercise what I call the free will muscle. we just really, it comes into taking responsibility, but making our choices. You know, what will I choose?
Yeah.
And if I want to make something change or something I should do about my health or my lifestyle, we know something is good for us to watch less TV, less phone scrolling, or etc. But what's important is recognizing the value of why having less of that or changing that pattern is important. And that's where the internal motivation comes when you think, well, if I didn't have the TV on and we're playing board games after dinner, that's an example of what are you valuing here? Well, I really want more connection with my family where we're talking, engaging, for example.
Yeah, during the weekend, I don't know where my phone is half the time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have it. I don't want it. I don't have any meetings planned. And so if it's an emergency, they'll call enough where eventually I'll find my phone, you know? But yeah, because it's, you get, like, especially with kids, they grow so fast. And so I feel like, you know, the times where maybe I did get a phone call from a client and then I have my phone by me and then I'll catch myself, oh, let me check this, let me check that, let me check this. And then it's like, when's the last time I really looked at Layla? When's the last time I really looked? And so it's like I throw my phone and just get away. Because then you can really look at them and like see what their eyes are looking at and, you know, just how they're reacting to things.
Or here's one that comes up a lot in coaching, actually, is at night you put your phone charger in the kitchen and you go to your bedroom to sleep. So get an alarm clock. Get a clock radio. You know, leave your phone out of the bedroom is like a huge game changer for a lot of people.
I totally thought about using an old school alarm because I still leave the phone in there and I've been very good at like turn off the alarm, still throw the phone away. I don't want the first thought in my mind when I wake up is whatever the phone's saying.
You
know,
look at
want
those
that
emails.
moment.
What text came in? Oh, let me check my social media.
Oh, let me double check.
habitual.
Nothing changed in my calendar. Oh, let me check. Oh, this notification. You know, so true. It's so.
But if the phone isn't there, I don't know. It's the baby steps. You know, just choose one little thing.
I'm doing a decent job of just turning off the alarm and then getting up and just doing my, you know, sit-ups, my whatever, little bits of exercising. Miracle Morning was a very good book for me, too, with helping just coming up with some sort of just morning routine to put me in the right mindset. So I don't know if you've done that one. You probably don't need to because you're, like, rocking it with a great mindset routine.
Well, I don't know about great mindset routine, but my mental emotional health is regular exercise in the morning. And I probably wouldn't look at any email or phone or anything until after I've had the exercise, my shower, the breakfast, and about 8:30 I'll go look at my emails.
Right.
I'm an exception. Like most people probably wouldn't wait that long, but maybe it's like a boundary. I'm not ready to get into that part of my day yet.
I'd say I'm pretty close to that, actually. I really am. Unless for some reason I know someone needed to get a hold of me early because I already pre-planned that. No, I'm pretty close with that because, I'll get up. I'll do my little exercises, you know, shower, eat, brush teeth, get the kids ready for school. Layla's not into school until 8:30. So it's, and then, so it's like 9, I'd actually
you're
say.
busy with your family.
Here's
another one. How many people are having their lunch while they're on the computer?
I don't even eat lunch.
Well,
I know it's so bad. I know it's so bad for my blood sugar. I need to eat more.
Taylor.
I know.
I was just saying that I really recommend, you don't need an hour for lunch, but you need an off-screen break. Just take 20 minutes. Get away from your screen, put your devices down, and actually connect with the food that you're eating.
So that's
Taste
where you got
me. Look at it, appreciate it, have some palate gratification, be like in tune with your nutritional bites.
That's where you got me there. I'll do good in the mornings, and then once I'm on, it's on until I'm yanked off. So many times, Eric and I will be in the office at night and be like, okay, I'm done. Yeah, I'm done too. Just once you get up, I'll get up. And it's just like 10 minutes later. It's like, wait, I thought you said you're done. Yeah, I said I was done, but I'll be done once you get up. And eventually, one of us will just turn off the lights in our workstation and stand up. And then the next person will do it.
Well, you have each other to hold each other accountable. It's worse when you live by yourself. It's a time warp.
Right, I know, because then no one else is standing up.
It's 8:45, 8:30, and then it's 11. It's like, how did that happen? I was in the zone. I was so present.
Yes. That is a thing, though, especially when it comes to editing something or writing something. You can't just stop when you're in a zone, so that doesn't happen. So the hopes is you can still get enough sleep.
Yeah, well, I would confess, being transparent.
Yeah.
I could sit here and say, I'm a health coach and, I'm a stress mastery expert. But I will confess that, the area where I could do better with my health is probably more consistent time for sleep. Because I cut corners.
Got it.
And
Do
so-
you nap or?
Sometimes, once in a
Okay.
while, but not as a regular thing. I might have a little kip for like 20-minute tube in the afternoon once in a while,
Yeah.
like a reboot. But so like I'm not perfect,
Yeah.
and I'm a work in progress too.
Well, that's
And I use my
perfect.
own tools that I teach.
Well, that
So,
means that they
like,
work
don't
and you're
put me on
doing
a
them and you're
pedestal
human.
because
You're
I'm
not a
still
robot.
figuring it out as well.
That is excellent, though. You're willing to admit that because
Yeah.
I think, like so many coaches have coaches because,
Mhm.
there's no one that's perfect that's doing everything right.
Mhm.
There's always going to be a lack in somewhere for one reason or another. And, if it's sleep, then
Mhm.
just something to focus on. I love sleep. Although I don't sleep, I probably had maybe 4 hours last night. But.
Well, when you have a family, that's a factor.
Yes, a family with
Mhm.
late night baseball games and late night
Yeah,
baths.
all the sports
Oh.
will just get busier for you
Yes.
as they get older.
But it's exciting. It's a heart I'm choosing. It's
Mhm.
another thing too is choose your heart and then appreciate it that you have it and that I'm
And-
able to.
That's what gets back to values, that when we go often what's triggering stress within us is those competing values.
Mhm.
Family time versus work projects.
Mhm.
Really connecting with your kids and getting them involved with sports, but also taking care of your home or your garden.
Yeah.
That the values of our priorities are always competing. So the more we can be aware of what's bumping up against each other, it helps us have the discernment to actually prioritize. And that's a great approach to when you have the overwhelmed, so much going on kind of stress.
Most definitely. And I'm very grateful to be in the industry that I am of video marketing that, we might help people with their bottom lines, but we're not like saving lives literally. So whenever I do, I'll give myself that permission to tell someone, I'll get back to you tomorrow or give me 2 days. It's okay because it's not life-threatening. So I'm so grateful to be in an industry where I can choose to go to the baseball game, to delay certain things with work because of the priorities and that, it's not, life-threatening
like-
grave surgery. So
That's an important thing to recognize. It's like when something, it's not life and death, I actually can make a choice.
yeah, 30 hours or 24 hours isn't that long. And I think it's also just like, sometimes your priorities, I'm sure you were the same way too, where people were shocked at how quickly you did something or how quickly you got a task done, just because you have a goal or you think things have an expectation of being done, that is way above the bar of most people's expectations. So I think it's sometimes like giving yourself that grace of you don't need to be that overachiever all the time.
For me, the overachieving was because I wanted outside approval. I wanted to look good, look like I have it all together, be the success healthcare practitioner. But inside I was insecure and I was, really quite didn't have any bottom lines or boundaries. I just said yes to everything. And that really didn't work for me in the long run. It's important we learn how to have our boundaries and how we don't get invested in expectations of, getting it right and getting it perfect, but to allow ourselves to learn from our mistakes and, have that grace. That's a practice too. Being easier on ourselves.
Yes, I know. We need to give ourselves some more grace and things. So, this book is so powerful. I've listened to it, like I said, and I really just thoroughly enjoyed it. It was one of those that I just didn't stop listening until I had to. It was so great to have when I was in the garden, when I was riding back from bike rides, from dropping kids off and things. And so how can people get a hold of not only this book, but also of your programs?
Yes. Well, the book is Courage to Shine, How to Feel Confident Outside Your Comfort Zone. It's available on Amazon and Apple Books, and it's on Audible and the Apple Tunes. And so that's out there. And certainly I'm on all the social media. I love connecting with people there. And my website is directionsforwellness.com. And to find me on social media, it's important to spell my name right. It's Sara without an H and register with all E's. There's no I.
And we'll make sure to put all those
Yeah.
links in the show notes also.
Yeah.
So on the website, we'll have all these links so people can easily purchase, easily connect with you and
Yes.
everything. And then if we were to leave everyone with just one message, what would be that message to leave?
Well, I just want to say I love speaking to your groups in my interactive stress mastery workshop, from feeling stuck to feeling free. And I love working with people one-on-one. And so I would say my message is don't do it alone. There's support. And support from a coach. They're with you in the bus, and you're driving your own bus. Coach has the GPS, going to give you some directions of what the options are, but you're the driver of your own bus. And so learning that free will, how to be autonomous, how to empower yourself, how to feel free and confident is really the gift you get when you invest in yourself. In any arena where you can grow, expand, heal. And so it's a multi-pronged approach. It's not any one thing you do to evolve and grow in your life. It's all the things you're doing to stay connected, try new things, break up old patterns, and just be that work in progress.
Awesome. Excellent. So we are all works in progress,
Yes.
but let's do what we can just to better ourselves that little bit. Just pick an area and go for it.
Yes.
Thank you again, Sarah. I so appreciate you taking time to come today.
Yes, thank you. It's been a great conversation, Taylor.
Yes, thank you. And thank you all for watching.
Thank you for watching Tales with Taylor. Please make sure you like and subscribe to the Financial Potion YouTube channel to never miss an episode.